Hey guys, welcome to my very first episode of the Clare Kindness podcast. I wanted to interview my friend Lindsay first. She just really stood out to me as someone that is good at self-care and self-love, and I think that this is the forefront of kindness in our lives, and I feel like she's someone that has a lot to say, and I'm really excited to share her story with you. I came across Lindsay on Instagram. She has a lot of nude photos and she covers her privates with little flame emojis. And she had posted some of her nude on the toilet. And so I was drawn to these images and I was like, what's going on with this gal? And I started reading her posts. So I feel like a lot of people are drawn to her profile because her images are unusual, but they stay for her story, and her story is incredible. She is like the most open, most amazing person, and if only we could all live as free and as open and exuberant and as wise as she is. So she was she was an addict and she worked helping people struggling with their addictions, and she chose to do that because she didn't want others to be suffering like she was suffering. And it's what a lot of people probably end up doing that are in fields where they're helping others. In this talk, she talks about how she's learned to dance with her dark side, and I really am excited to explore this. It's something that I've struggled with. I push my dark side down, 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 and I feel like I'm going to take what she has taught me and I'm going to try and implement it in my life and see how it goes. I have also struggled with not being able to love myself like she has, and I really like what she has to say about how she's implemented self-care in her life and how it's made her a better partner for her love. And I think this is a really, really special, beautiful, soulful talk, and I'm so excited for you to listen. Please let me know what you think and subscribe if you enjoy this. And here we go.
Are recording.
Okay, I got recording on my side too. Linzy Ross. Hello.
Hello.
I'm super excited to talk to you this evening. This is our first real-time talk. You've left me messages on Instagram and on Facebook, and I feel so excited that I get to talk to you now.
I'm so glad to be here.
So I invited you to come and talk on this podcast. It's something that I wanted to create to kind of incentivize people to be kind, and I wanted to inspire I wanted us to inspire each other through our kindness stories. And I feel like there's a lot of ways to be kind. And the first way is to be kind to yourself, then to your partner, your children, your neighbors, your brothers and sisters around the world, our Mother Earth. But I feel like it starts with being kind to yourself. And I was like, Lindsay, you are this fitness, nutritional goddess, and you you are doing such a beautiful job of taking care of yourself and inspiring others to do the same. Let me just really quickly talk about how I came across you. I started Clare Kindness and I put up something on Instagram. And I don't know if I found you or you found me, but I found your business page and I just kept seeing you coming up in my Instagram stories and in my feed, and I could not stop. Like, you know how you get into something that you love on Netflix or whatever, and like time just goes. They would keep going, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm watching Lindsay. So you guys, Lindsay does fitness coaching. I don't know if you're listening to the podcast, just listening, but visually, picture a model with a shaved head, covered in tattoos, long fluorescent nails, and she's going throughout her day. She's waking up, she's thanking the universe, she's juicing with celery, she's doing her workouts, and she's playfully waking up and saying, what up, good morning, fuckers, and then dancing around her kitchen, being just full of joy and life. And I think on my so-called life, Rayanne was talking to Angela's mom about how some people are just all black and white, and then this one person in the room is just in color. I'm like, Lindsay is in color. She just like, ugh. Okay. So I don't want to leave anything out about who you are or you growing up. So do you want to give us a summary of who you are and your career background and your career now and everything?
Yes, thank you so much for that introduction. I'm over here blushing. I'm learning how to take compliments and be kind to myself. So I appreciate everything that you said about me. Um, my story is kind of crazy, so I'll just try to summarize it. I was, born into a somewhat normal household, I guess. They're just, I say normal because no one in my family has the experience that I have. And so I just always felt different. And I'm going to start by saying that I know now, I can look back on it, that I was never kind to myself until now. I never knew how to be kind to myself. I grew up in a house with normal people, but there was a lot of violence. There was a lot of aggression. There was a lot of anger. And I now know that that means there was a lot of fear. And so there was just a lot of hiding essentially in my life, in my childhood. And there's, a very colorful past filled with trauma, sexual abuse, by multiple people throughout my adolescence. And then I sold myself into prostitution at a very young age. I was propositioned by a friend's dad and I took the money. I believe that I knew that it was, societally wrong. And I knew that it was like taboo and therefore I liked it. I just have always been attracted to what you like, the gray, like people live in black and white. And I've always kind of been attracted to the difference. And just tried to escape through drugs and alcohol. I was always sick physically as a kid, and we couldn't figure out why until I was about 12. And then I got diagnosed with Crohn's disease. And then the next 6 years of my life are, drug and alcohol addiction, prostitution, abuse, just more abuse. And all of that comes from just not being kind to myself and punishing myself for things that were done to me, continuing to hurt other people because I had been hurt. And really turn that hatred inward. And so, excuse me, I got sober when I was 19, not by choice. I got sober because of the LAPD. I'm very grateful for them as a whole. And I was basically given a choice, which was spend the rest, the next 12 years behind bars. And I'm, for those that can't see me, like a small white person, essentially. And I've never identified as white. I've never felt comfortable as that. For a multitude of reasons that I won't get into, but I just never felt like I fit in anywhere, and I never understood why, and I wasn't willing to do the work to figure out why. I got sober because I didn't want to go and spend the rest of my adolescence and young adulthood behind bars. I then immediately became part of the 12-step community. I pretty much qualify for all of them. If they have an A at the end of them, I'm part of it. And I've worked the steps in them. And today I will kind of summarize now, I'm not part of those communities for other reasons, but I am still sober. December 29th, 2003 was the day that I gave up drugs and alcohol for good. And I still, maintain that today. And I hope to maintain that for the rest of my life. Who knows? But I just, it's been a journey, and I was a clinical case manager. I immediately wanted to help people when I got sober. I knew that I didn't want other people to feel the way that I had felt, and I didn't know what that meant. And helping people has always been my thing, right? It's always been something that I felt like I was drawn to. And I didn't ever really figure out until this most recent career switch and lifestyle change, that you can't take care of anybody if you're not taking care of yourself. And they always, I hate kitschy sayings, but they all apply, where it's you can't pour from an empty cup. So as a clinical case manager, I was working around the clock and not taking care of myself and not, doing things for my own self-care, but preaching to other people to do it for them. And it just felt kind of icky, and I felt like a fraud. And I ended up just burning out physically and emotionally and spiritually, and ending up in a situation where I was suicidal. And, at this time last year, and I ended up reaching out to somebody that I had found through Instagram that had a lifestyle that I really liked. And she got up every morning and she danced and drank her pre-workout and she worked out and She had a colostomy bag. And I'm sitting here feeling sorry for myself, thinking, if this woman can be a badass and use her illness as her strength and not as her crutch, so can I. And I was willing to give it a shot. And so I reached out to her. I signed up to be a Beachbody coach, and the rest is history. My life has never been the same, and happier and healthier than I've ever been. It's crazy. And getting to share that with other people and get to meet women like you is the best gift. It's like I left out a whole bunch of stuff.
And that's a wrap, and that's showtime. No, just kidding. Well, you have a big following on Instagram. You have almost 10,000 followers. Was it like your trajectory? Did you quit work at your other job and then just full time into this, or did you baby steps into this?
So I sort of interesting. I sort of baby stepped, and then in typical Linzy Ross fashion, like catapulted. Like I was always like, yeah, I'm gonna dip my toe in, and then boom, just head dive. Not realize if it's shallow or not, but it's been an interesting journey. Like I was still very much prostituting until I met my fiance 3.5 years ago. It was like my secret double life, and I was, meeting with people, running treatment programs basically, and implementing programs in the jails, and talking this big game, and then going and having sex for money at night. And I felt, and then going to 12-step meetings and talking about living along certain principles and living spiritually. And I just felt like honestly, a fraud. And that contributed to my mental health really, really declining at that point. And then I thought like I would need to be on psych meds, and that was a huge mistake too. So I take Lexapro and Remeron, in full disclosure, for anxiety and depression. But I really had no idea what this was going to look like. I mean, when I started coaching, I had 200 followers on Instagram, and it was a private account. And those were all like my AA people, right? Those were all people that lived a certain way and did not expect to see me nude, essentially. And when I really stepped into owning my life and owning my experiences, both good and bad, and the whole idea of being nude is about not hiding anymore. And I want other women to see that they don't have to hide, that nudity and sexuality are completely different things. I mean, the spectrum of it is everything. And I get nude after I work out and do positive affirmations to my body parts on purpose, because I was told that I would never walk without a cane and that I would never be on disability. And so having this lifestyle is everything to me, and I guard it like so wholeheartedly. So I basically went full time after 6 months. I just realized that the money was not that I replaced the income, because obviously I didn't replace prostitution income. That's not yet, at least. But my priorities changed, and I realized that I had a whole lifestyle of things that I didn't need, right? And I was like dyeing my hair, and I didn't even want hair, so I shaved it. My nails are the only real expense that I kept because I love them. They're kind of my thing.
It's good to be mindful about your spending. I wanted to bring up that you were walking with a cane and you were really struggling. Do you want to talk about the things that you were diagnosed with, your diet, and what medicine or medicinal things you're using right now?
Yes, because those all kind of connect. So my cane is actually in my closet right there. It was my grandpa's cane. So I have like the official diagnosis. And if you go to my Instagram page, it says, let's break free of diagnosis together, because I don't identify with these diagnoses, because I think that it's really easy for people to hide behind a label. And it's really easy for me to not work on I'm trying not to swear. This is the longest I've gone without swearing. Like, so proud of myself. That it's really easy for someone to be like, well, I can't do that because I have Crohn's disease. And it's like, okay, well, no, you can't do it because you tell yourself you can't do it. So I have officially diagnosis of Crohn's disease, rheumatoid arthritis, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, anxiety and depression. And then whatever else they've decided to osteoarthritis and different things that I was told. Like I was told I had osteoarthritis when I went and got a bone scan, which was the beginning of the end of Western meds for me, because when I asked them why I had losing, bone density in my wrist at 33, they were like, because you're taking omeprazole. And I was like, oh, you mean my acid reducer? And they were like, yeah, the biggest side effect is bone loss. And I like just threw up the white flag that day. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to take all these meds anymore, because the meds that I was taking were actually causing all these other problems. I got the rheumatoid arthritis diagnosis after I started using Humira. And I was told that Humira had like 1 in 1,000 whatever chance that a person could have early onset of arthritis. And like, hi, 1%. So I got that. And then as a result of those two things and the drugs that I had to be on for those issues, I then was fatigued all the time. And then I went to the doctor and said, my body hurts all the time. And they said, oh, you have fibromyalgia and you have chronic fatigue. And I think my issue with all these diagnoses is that bad on me, because at no point in any of these diagnoses did I ask a doctor, okay, what does that mean? Like, what does that mean for my life? Because all it was you have a diagnosis, here's your medication, take your medication and don't ask questions. Oh, you have this now because of this medication. Here, you can take this pill and it will be okay. And that was 33 years of my life, like in and out of doctor's offices and on and off of medications and on and off of steroids and prednisone and infusions and losing hair. And like, it all became so much to me that I realized I could actually advocate for myself and that I could actually tell a doctor, I'm not going to take that medicine. And I had to sign paperwork, that AMA, which is against medical advice, in my rheumatologist's office the day that I told him I was not coming back for any more infusions. And he looked at me like I was absolutely insane. And I said, I promise you I'm going to heal myself and I'm going to do whatever it takes. And that was the day that I started looking into medical marijuana. And that journey has been nothing short of emotional. It is not the reason I left the 12-step community, but it helped. I understand that there is a mindset that you need to be free of all drugs, like all mind-altering substances, and I respect that. I really do. My issue is that I was taking Lyrica and gabapentin and having seizures, essentially, and I did not realize how brain fogged I was from those medications until I came off of them. And my fiance at the time, like right now at the time, when I was coming off of Lyrica, came home one day and accused me of being back on drugs because of how I was acting, and that he knew what the withdrawal from opiates looked like. And he said, just tell me the truth. Have you been, using heroin? And I was like, I liked uppers, but no, no, I'm not. And that was the day that we really talked about it. And I said, I don't think I want to do this anymore. And I think I want to use medicinal marijuana. And he was like, oh Christ. Okay. Like, this is going to be a process. And it was definitely, and has been still. And only very recently, a couple months ago, did I actually come out on social media about it. And I am still dealing with that. People have opinions about what I do with my body, apparently.
You talked in one of your Instagram stories about how people that you had bonded with over the 12-step program either vocalized and verbalized to you that they were worried or didn't approve, yada, yada, or they just didn't communicate and things kind of ended. And you just had this beautiful empathy and clarity, and you said, I understand why they're doing this because I know, but I have to do what's right for me, and this is what I'm doing to be kind to myself. So I'm curious, it's probably too soon, but has anyone said, Lindsay, I want to check in with you and see how it's going. Lindsay, I'm really sorry that I doubted you. I could see you're just thriving and I'm thrilled. Any of that, or is it just kind of quiet?
So there is one girl, actually. She's incredible. And she and I messaged shortly after I came out, like, about it, and just said, hey, as long as you're doing well, I think that's amazing. And I do understand, at first I was very unkind. I was very unkind with the response that I got. And I forgot that I spent 15 years in that community, and that the majority of the time, the statistic is real, that people leave that community and they end up going back to their drug of choice, and they end up, relapsing and overdosing and whatever. I understand that. I also worked in that field for 10 of those 15 years and seen it firsthand. And I believe that it really did work to my advantage to have that professional experience with it, because I also knew what to look for and still do. So if there are times where I get triggered, it's once in a blue moon, but if it happens, I'm very communicative with my partner about it immediately. I'm like, hey, this happened and I had a dream about crack, because I really believe that part of the problem with people that are sober is it's so much of, oh no, I never think about that. Okay, if you're a drug addict, if you're a real drug addict, you're always going to think about your drug choice. That's just the nature of the game. But I also know the person I become when I'm under the influence of anything other than marijuana, and I don't like that person. It's not a nice person. It's not a kind person. It's a very angry person, and I don't want to be that, and that person exists every day when I have dark moments where I have to make sure that as much as I preach kindness and love and self-love, that I still struggle with that at times, that I still have my brain that will tell me, you're not good enough. You don't have anything to say. Don't get on this podcast. You have nothing to share. And I don't know what that is, and I no longer fight it. That's the difference, is I dance with that person now. I'm like, okay, that's a part of me. It's a dark part of me. Let's dance. You're clearly there. The more I try to push it down, the worse it gets. The more I try to ignore that part of me, the worse it gets. And I just wish that everybody would embrace that part of them, because we all have it, especially if you have a past with trauma. Yeah.
So do you know anybody that's gone the path you are, that struggled with addiction and started using medical marijuana? Or are you the only one that that's?
No, it's actually really cool. There's kind of a subculture that I've found that is a lot of people that had sort of the same experience that I did, who have autoimmune illness and chose to use marijuana instead of opiates, or chose to use medical marijuana instead of psych meds, or just didn't want to be medicated, and didn't want that lifestyle. And out of respect for the 12-step community, they're like, okay, I'm not going to, go to meetings anymore. And there's almost a little community of sub influencers. And that's what's really cool, is it's all people that aren't hiding, right? Because the biggest thing in addiction is we hide and we isolate. This is people that are on the internet that are sharing their journey and are like, hey, this is what I went through and I want to be able to help somebody else. And I think that's what I got to, it was really unfair of me to be utilizing something that was so powerfully helping my life and not share about it because of what other people might think, and it's hard. It's only as hard as we make it. Let me put it that way. Getting feedback from people. I think the meanest thing that somebody has said to me is, you're not fucking, I did so good. They were like, you're not sober. And I was like, you're allowed to think that. You're totally allowed to think that. Hi, I'm sober. You're talking to me right now and I'm totally sober. And I hit my pen right before we talked. I'm not smoking out of a bong. I'm not, and even if I was, that would be my business too. But I use it very medicinally, specific strains. It's changed my life. And I live in a state where it's not legal. So there's that too.
You talked about how mind body is connected with health, and someone really close to me my two closest women in my life have chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia. They're not like, oh, you did this, so you got this. It's like, what? It's kind of a mystery. Why do women get chronic fatigue? And I think this woman's mother was horrible to her. This trauma happened to her, so these are manifesting in her body. And I love that you found a healthy way to be healthy.
Food is anything that's inflammation based can be controlled by food, and that's something that doctors aren't necessarily going to tell you because they don't know. I don't blame doctors. I don't blame Western doctors at all. They know what they know and they do the best they can with what they have. But when I finally saw a naturopath and stopped treating my symptoms and started treating the root cause, he said, what are you eating? And I was like, oh, just whatever I want. Or I was under eating because I was scared. And he taught me that I could eat for fuel. And so did Beachbody. It taught me how to eat balanced macros. And when my gut wasn't healed, I couldn't eat greens. And so I had to, my diet has completely changed, and I don't have any gluten. I don't have any dairy. I don't have any animal protein other than egg. And it's not to be restrictive. It's, I listen to my body. And if I eat something and it tells me that it doesn't like it, I don't eat it again. Right. I've done all the testing that shows that I don't have any allergies to celiac or to gluten, but physically, if I eat gluten, I will throw up and pass blood. And so clearly the test is not like I wish people would listen to their bodies, because your body will tell you immediately. Your gut, if it's not happy about something, person, place, or thing, it will tell you immediately. And people ignore it, where you're taught as a culture to ignore it. And, oh, you're just being dramatic, or, oh, you're just making that up. That's like my biggest thing. If I hear someone tell their child that they're being dramatic, I'm like, oh, don't tell your kid that. Because you just told your kid to basically not feel what they're feeling.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah.
No, I have two young girls, a 6-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. And I've had people tell my 6-year-old not to cry and my 1.5-year-old not to cry. And
why would you ever tell a kid not to cry? It's like telling a bird not to fly. I just don't, it's baffling to me. And that's also why I don't want children. It takes so much energy to police myself on a daily basis. I don't want to have to be responsible for another human being.
Okay, I'm gonna just jot down my questions. So what level on 1 to 10 were you at being kind to yourself before, and what level are you at now?
Man.
How did you become so good at loving Lindsay? I saw you posting, it was like a photo, and you had highlighted parts of your body and you pointed to it and you said that you're talking to your body and telling your body you were never going to hurt it again, and you're apologizing, talking to it like it was a loved one. And I just, wow, where'd you get that from?
Okay, so I would say that my self-love up until last year was at a 0. I mean, it was probably at a deficit. It was like a negative, right? Because there was no absence. Okay, let me put it this way. There was an absence of kindness, but there was a presence of mean and aggression. And so not only was I not kind, but I was just straight up mean to my body and to me. I would binge eat. I would undereat. I would, seek attention in places I didn't need to be. Everything that I could do to just not focus on this is what I was trying to do. And that's also why I was a clinical case manager. If I fix everybody else, I'll never have to actually work on myself. That was my whole goal, and it worked, right?
And did you get a helper's high, feeling excited for?
It was weird. It was this little boomerang of adrenaline that kind of came back after the fact, and I would feel more empty because I would give, and then it kind of allowed me to be oh, well, nobody gives to me. And it's well, give to yourself, bro. Why don't you self-love first before you wait for everyone else to validate you? And so now I would say my self-love is at a 7. I aspire to be at a 10, but I'm not Tony Robbins. That's where I'm headed. I really believe that there's always room for improvement. And today was a perfect example of, 5 minutes before I got on this podcast, I'm sitting here and I'm allowing myself to tell myself really negative things. And I'm grateful that because my self-care is at a 7 now, I'm able to be whoa. Stop. You're getting all worked up about nothing, and you're about to have a conversation with a person. That's it. You're about to have a conversation with a new friend about your life. That's, you best, right? No one can tell your story better than you. And so what made me learn how to love myself is honestly just being so freaking mean to myself for so long, and realizing that all the love that I was giving everybody else, I actually deserved it. And I deserved to turn that inward, and that I really wasn't helping anybody. I really wasn't. I mean, there are people that tell me I changed their life, and maybe that's true, but at the time it really almost didn't matter, because it was so much self-hatred and so much self-doubt and so much living in fear of what if people actually see the real me, what are they going to think? And it never occurred to me that if I loved the real me, it really wouldn't matter what anybody else thought. And that's what I ended up doing. And like, it's awkward to admit this, but people ended up loving the real me. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, the real me is crazy and I love it. And I'm so grateful for that. But I never knew that I would have the impact that I have. And now I can't unknow that.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can't not be good to myself. I can't, not share. Like, every once in a while I'll get a message and it's somebody that's younger and they're telling me that they're like, I'm gonna try not to cry. The other day, a 13-year-old wrote to me and told me that some things were happening at school. And because of watching my stories, she knows that she can advocate for herself. I wish that I would have had access to Instagram at 13. I wish that these things would have been there and that I would have paid attention to people, because I probably would have spoke up about some bad things that were happening, right? And so that's what makes me do it. In moments where I want to be like, no, you suck, there's a little part of me that's like, you have no idea how much you being vulnerable is about to help somebody else. And I just want people to see that it's okay, that you don't have to be perfect, that women don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have a face of makeup if that's not your thing. Like, I mean, I definitely put makeup on for this, but most of the time I'm like homeless looking. I just don't want people to hide.
So do you remember the first time you took a photo of yourself on the toilet, not ashamed and horrified, but just really comfortable in your own skin and grateful and happy where you were at?
I've always been oddly comfortable with the toilet thing. So that's what's funny, is people are like, oh, you're super confident. And I'm like, oh, well, taking selfies is still awkward to me. Taking selfies and posing, it's still super weird to me, but like, I get it. And I understand that it's, for a greater purpose. Talking on the toilet though, I've been pooping and talking about poop my whole life. So it's like, that was never weird to me. And that's the part that's weird to most people, because they're like, that's the most vulnerable. And I'm like, oh, that's my everyday. I spend 90% of my time in the bathroom. Like, that's why I work from home. It's essentially why, so that I can go to the bathroom as much as I want and not have to, like, I hated working in an office and having to be like, I have to go to the bathroom. Can you watch the phone? Like, how long are you gonna be gone? I don't know. A long time. Watch the phone.
Okay, so I wanted to ask you, I put something on Instagram and I asked my Instagram friends, what is the kindest thing that comes to mind when I ask you, what is the most cherished moment of kindness that someone showed to you? And what popped into your head was that someone was asking you how it felt to have your diagnosis. And I wanted to ask you what that moment or that relationship meant to you.
She asked me about my diagnosis, like how I got the diagnosis.
You said it never occurred to you that you could have feelings about it, and it like gave you a chance to open up. And like you said, the doctors were telling you stuff and then sending you on your way, and it was like this person wanted to hear what was on your heart. So,
but it just never occurred to me, like, as stupid as this sounds, it never occurred to me that I was allowed to have like an emotional response to a diagnosis, like to a diagnosis that was going to affect me for the rest of my life. Right.
So a lot of people weren't coming up to you and saying, how's it going? How are you feeling? It was just this like one person, you're like, wow, you're taken aback by that.
It was like, it never really, no one, to be honest, until Raina, my coach, nobody ever asked me how I felt about it. I don't have a memory. This would probably really hurt my parents' feelings, but they did the best that they could. So I'll just preface with that, which is all I can ever say about them. I don't personally, maybe it happened. I don't have a memory of my parents ever asking me how I felt about it. Even today, like, it's not really talked about. It's just kind of understood that, like, if Lindsay's not in the room, it's because she's on the toilet, and people just, know I'm sick, right? Or I'm sick. I hate saying that. But no one has ever asked me how I feel about it, ever. And I ask people, like, when people message me every day, oh my God, I just got a Crohn's disease diagnosis. I'm like, how do you feel? And they're like, wait, what? And I'm like, how do you feel about it? How do you feel about the fact that someone just told you that the rest of your life is going to be impacted, and you are now going to have to think about everything you think, feel, see, eat, do. Everything will affect you, right? It's crazy to me that I have women that tell me every day, like, oh, I didn't know I could feel. And I'm like, you're allowed to be angry. You're not allowed to like feel sorry for yourself, but you're allowed to feel angry about it. Yeah, it sucks. Totally sucks. You're not gonna get to eat stuff you want to eat, but you don't have cancer. You're not dying. Be grateful, right? And it took me honestly 20 years to be grateful for Crohn's though. And I have a tattoo that's with my coach, actually, the one that I was talking about, that says, "Fuck, love you." And it's about our diseases, because I don't know who I'd be without it. And I'm grateful, so grateful for it. At this point, I mean, I wasn't up until now, but I think that's also being kind to yourself. People think that they're given a diagnosis and it has to be a death sentence, and it doesn't. It can be the best gift you've ever gotten. So
maybe it's not as easy for you as someone else to work out. It'll be more uncomfortable, but you can do it. Do you think maybe people don't take the time and effort to ask you about it? It's like uncomfortable. Like if someone passed away, they don't bring it up because it's uncomfortable. So it just goes untalked about. Uncomfortable for them. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You would love to share, and I'll talk about it all day. People are uncomfortable about things that they don't know how to, they personalize it, right? Or like, this is also something I've learned. Like, people ask me a lot, like, how do I deal with my spouse that has it? And I'm like, just be kind. Just be kind and supportive and ask them what they need. Because the problem is, when you have autoimmune illness, you feel like a burden already on every person in your life. Because, oh, I'm missing this because I'm on the toilet, or oh, I'm missing this because I'm fatigued, or I'm missing this because I'm sick, or I'm missing this because I'm having a side effect of this medication. Like, you already feel like a burden on these people's lives. And if, you know, when people ask you all the time, like, what can I do for you? What can I do for you? Like, sometimes it's like, don't ask me that question. Just be there, right? Just hold. I think the best advice I can give is to just hold the space. Meaning, ask them how they're feeling and ask them what they need. And most of the time, like, we don't know what we need. You know, like, I had a stomachache before we started this, and I had a heating pad. I usually have it like near me. And I had a heating pad on my stomach. And as we've been talking, the stomachache has gone away. And so, like, the heating pad is gone now. Jake, my partner, will not, like, if he sees this out, he knows, and he won't ask, because he's like, okay, she's a stomachache. Like, I don't need to ask, right? But, like, there are times where I'll be kind of hanging out, and he's like, you okay? Do you need anything? And I'm like, no, I'll ask you if I need something. But, you know, people, they just are being loving. Just be kind. I think that's it. Because as uncomfortable as it might make you, somebody has to get used to, like, all the things. And I'm used to it now because I've had 20 years of pooping my pants. But I mean, if you asked me 10 years ago how I felt about having Crohn's, I might have been really angry about it, because I don't think I was in a place to accept the gift that it actually has been. Is there anything that you can put into words that you want to do coming up? Write a book, start a movie. What is there anything that's documentary? I would absolutely love to write a book. I wouldn't even know where to start. I had somebody actually contact me and ask if they could be a ghostwriter, and I was like, I don't even know what that means. Let's talk about it. Sure. I think it occurred to me as of very recently that I am willing to talk about things that most people are not, but most people think about those things and they're curious about those things. And I've unfortunately firsthand lived them, right? So I think 50% of the people that read it would read it for shock value, and the other 50% are genuinely interested. I just don't know if I would want it to be a biography or if I'd want it to be like a self-help, or I don't know. I know that my whole life is intentional, and that's not something I ever thought I'd say, like, ever. That everything I do on a daily basis is to keep myself as healthy as I can be. So waking up, priming, getting myself into a state of gratitude. I learned that through Tony Robbins, because I don't wake up grateful. I wake up, I'm an alcoholic. I'm a sober alcoholic. So I wake up and I'm like, another day, great. Even though I have this life that is incredible beyond measure,
that I'm building every day and creating, I have to get myself into a state of gratitude. Then I come into the kitchen, and I used to never dance in front of people. It was like my biggest, like I would go to weddings and I would sit down the whole time. I would never dance because I was like, oh my God, they're going to think I have like white girl dance moves. Now I'm like, I have white girl dance moves, whatever. That is a form of play therapy that I learned through EMDR. And so I do that with my pre-workout and my Go Juice. And then I do my workout, which in the beginning of doing Beachbody workouts, I had to modify everything. I had to wear wrist wraps. I could barely do a sit-up or a push-up. Today, to be able to do the things I do today, it's nothing short of a miracle, but it's also just extremely empowering. And that's what I want to show people. It's not convenient to video myself. I just want people to see that like they can do anything that they believe they can do. Then I drink celery juice because it flushes everything, and cleared my brain fog because they wanted to put me on Topamax. And I said, no. And that's through the medical medium. And like, it's changed everything. And then my superfoods, I mean, my whole life is tailored around my health to create health and wellness, because no one will create it for you. You have to do it for yourself if you want. I mean, if you want to.
I was going to ask you, you have a call to action for the listeners if they're struggling. I feel like I've struggled with mental health and anxiety and depression, and it was really hard right after my daughters were born, because my body's leaking from all these places and my husband's at work and I'm just feeling like just, I guess, invisible and seen. And so like when Amy Schumer comes out and shows like what she's showing and people are saying like, it's okay not to be perfect, and you're here showing women and men and young adults, it's okay, be you, do your best. Do you have any final message?
I do. I think the hardest part about life is that we make it hard. And I think that we're told that we have to be a certain way and think a certain way. And we think that that's going to make other people happy and that it's going to make us happy. And my one message to people is like, literally just do you. Just worry about you and not about your parents and your friends and your siblings and your spouse and your kids and your dog and your neighbor. Like when you are kind to yourself, when you forgive yourself, the relationship that you have with yourself literally sets the tone for every other relationship and friendship in your life. And if you can love yourself, you will radiate that out and you will unlock a light within other people. If you're only focused on other people though, and you never look inward, it only goes so far. And I just want people to be kind to themselves and to embrace the bad, because we all have it. We all have a dark passenger, right? Like if you ever watched Dexter, we all have a darkness within us. Some of it's a little darker than others, but like present company included, that's okay. That actually makes you who you are. And when you don't hide from that and you step into the light with that part, beautiful things can happen.
Okay, so I'm excited to invite people to follow you on Instagram. Can you let them know what your handle is?
Yes, you go to Instagram.com/Linzy, Linz as in zebra, Y, Ross, Ross as in Sam. That's me. Can't miss me. It's a big picture of my butt.
If any fans and followers of Linzy are here listening to me because of her, thank you and hi guys, and keep up the good work. And if any of my friends are listening to Linzy, I would, if you have any interest in becoming healthier physically and mentally and spiritually, I think a lot of Beachbody coaches, I imagine, are really good at the fitness aspect, and she's just incredibly amazing at the trifecta. So I would highly encourage you to follow her and get inspired and be entertained by her adorableness.
Yes.
And I'm super excited for your upcoming nuptials to your lovely fiance. And thank you so much for today. I feel ecstatic I got to talk to you.
I'm so grateful. I'm so glad we got to connect. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
I'll talk to you soon. I hope you have a great night.
You too. Bye, love.
Okay, so you guys heard this amazing talk with Lindsay, and I'm sure you are curious how to connect with her. The account that she gave you was just deleted a week ago. So it's not the Linzy Ross on Instagram. It's actually updated to Linzy, LINZYMF Ross. I'll let you use your imagination and think what MF stands for. But once again, the new Instagram handle for Lindsay is LINZYMFROSS. And Instagram deleted her account a week ago. She had over 10,000 followers and now she's growing again. She's up to over 1,000. But if you look for her, she's got the skull and crossbones, and the photo is her with her tongue sticking out and smiling, and it's hashtagged self-love fight club. If you guys found me through Lindsay and you want to find me on Instagram, my handle is Clare Kindness, CLARE, and my photo is like me with my glasses and pearls on, smiling with a rainbow mural background. I'd love to see you guys over there. I appreciate you listening, and I'm so excited to bring you more podcasts from more amazing humans next week. Bye, guys. Hi, friends. This is my first podcast, and I wanted to let you know that April Smith of Pismo Beach Century 21 Realty is sponsor today. She's sponsoring Lindsay's podcast. When I asked my friends who would like to sponsor an episode, April was the first one that said, yes, I want to sponsor. And what I love about April is that she is kind to herself in being authentic in her advertisements and her work and personal life. So her ads have her riding her motorcycle or off-roading or out at the shooting range. April is really authentic, and what you see is what you get, and you're gonna like what you get with April. She's a beautiful redhead. She's really passionate for life. She has a really good heart, and she's always organizing like garage sales at her office or putting together a fundraiser for Rise. One of the things she's working on right now is coming up with the fundraiser for Rise. It's called Women, Wine, and Shoes, and it's the biggest fundraiser of the year for the local shelter for people suffering from domestic violence. And yeah, they earn the majority of their funds for the entire year through this event, and April's been a key fundraiser for them for many years. She also, as a realtor, gives a special discount to military people and first responders. So she gives them part of her commission as a way of saying thank you. I want to say thank you to April for being so passionate and sponsoring this first episode with Lindsay, who is another bad ASS just like you are. And excited to announce that April is going to be on my podcast next month. So thank you for sponsoring, and thank you for being an upcoming guest. I love you, April. I hope you guys that are looking for a realtor in San Luis Obispo County will consider April. She will take very good care of you. Bye, guys.